and welcome to Knitting with a G. It is I, Gina, and this is lesson 1. So today I'm going to show you how to actually do something. Today I'm going to teach you how to cast on, which is just a fancy word for start, begin, or commence. And then I'm going to teach you how to execute the basic stockinette knit stitch. First things first, I forgot to talk to you last week about needle size. I'm going to be using size 11 needles today. You can find the size of the needles on the back of the needle or on the package of the needle when you purchase them. If you choose to use smaller needles like size 8 or 9, you're going to end up with tighter stitches. And if you choose to use bigger needles, like size 11 or 12, then you're going to end up with looser stitches. You can see how this is a little more holy. And yes, so I'm using bigger needles today, A, because it's easier to show you that way, and B, because I let my nieces borrow my smaller ones. I am also using thick yarn today, even though I told you to use thin yarn, because I am a professional. No, because it's just easier for you to see when the yarn is bigger. I am only thinking of you. There are two ends to your yarn. Your yarn ball is actually called a skein. So there are two ends to your skein. The first one's really obvious because it's wrapped around the outside, and the second one is a secret end that is located on the inside of the skein. If you can find that end, then it's really easier to use the inside one because you are less likely to tangle your yarn that way. But I can never find that one because it's so secret. I think I like it better because it plays hard to get. But again, I can never find it, so I usually just end up using the outside one, and that's usually okay too. There are two different methods for casting on, the 2-finger method and the 1-finger method, but they are basically the same thing, and they both start with a slip knot. Now when I say slip knot, perhaps you think of the band and are filled with fear, but don't worry, our purposes are far more innocent. You're going to take 2 fingers and pinch the short end in between your index and your thumb, and then you're going to wrap the long end around and grab it in between your index and your thumb as well. And then you're going to want to make sure that you've left enough of your short end so that you can put the body of the short end through the loop that was on your fingers without losing the end through that loop. So I'll show you again how to do that. You can see how it slip knots. So again, pinching the short end in between those 2 fingers, wrapping the long end around, and putting the body of the short end through that loop. Here we go. Now you're going to put that loop on your needle and pull it tight with the short end. And the tendency here is to want to pull it really tight as though you hated your needle and wanted to cut off its circulation. But that's really overzealous and unnecessary because it'll make it hard for you to put your other needle through that stitch if it's too tight. If you do it too loosely, then your scarf will just be unsightly. So all things in moderation, my friends. I usually just try to pull it until it's just taut up against the needle and it kind of stops on its own. When I do that, it looks like I have a mustache. But yeah, and then I don't try to force it any tighter than that. Now you're ready for your first hand stitch. I'm going to show you how to do the 2-finger method for the first few stitches, and then I'll show you how to do the 1-finger method for the next few stitches. I always use the 1-finger because it's how I learned and I just think it's easier, but you can decide what you're more comfortable with. 2-finger method, you're going to start like this, as though you're going to say, "Stay beautiful." Yes, just like that. So you're going to hold the yarn in your 3 fingers here, and then wrap the end with your needle around the back of your hand so that it comes in between your second and third fingers. And then you're just going to kind of hold that part out of the way while you stick your needle through the loop that you just made and pull your fingers out. So again, holding, wrapping, sticking, and pulling. And see, now I've made 3 stitches there instead of just 1. I'll do that one more time and then we'll start the 1 finger. The average scarf is about 10 to, 13 stitches. 10 is going to make a thinner scarf like that. And then you can see that this one's a little bit wider. I think that's about 12 stitches. A few stitches really make a big difference. And it's really kind of a false indicator from here. Like, you can't really tell how thick it's going to be just by how it looks on your needle. So it's really good to look at examples of other scarves and find out how many stitches were used on those. If you are using thinner yarn, like I told you to, then you should probably use more stitches so that you end up with a scarf and not a belt. Now, again, this is pretty much exactly the same, but you just take out the thumb and use 1 finger instead. You're going to grab it with your 3 fingers again and just wrap it around your index finger, stick your needle through that loop, and pull your finger out. One more time. Here, wrap it around your index finger, stick your needle through that loop, and pull your finger out. I'm going to do 10 stitches just to show you, and then you can do however many you need to accomplish your goal. How many is that? 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's your first row. Now I'm going to turn around because I think it'll be easier for you to learn the stockinette stitch if it's not in mirror images. Okay, so what you're going to do first is take your first stitch here and you're going to stick your needle up through that stitch. And when you do that, you're going to want to make sure that your right hand needle goes behind the other needle. Then you're going to take your yarn here that comes out to the right side and wrap it around the back needle so that it comes in between the 2 needles. And then you're going to want to, this is kind of the hard part, you're going to make sure that you have the yarn that you wrapped around close to the right hand needle so that you don't lose it for the next move. Because you're going to take this and stick it down inside that stitch and pull it up over the top of that other needle so that it's now on the right hand needle instead of the left hand. The tendency here is to want to tighten the stitch by pulling the 2 needles apart, and that is a tragic and fatal mistake. You will have to start all over if you do that, because you'll just have a lot of awkward loops at the end of your scarf and they will not be beautiful. So the best that you can do to tighten the stitch is to pull the yarn off to the side. And that's really the best you can do. So throughout the whole first row, you're going to want to keep those needles together as close as you possibly can, and then you don't have to worry about that again for the rest of the scarf. So again, you're going to stick the needle up through the loop, wrap your yarn around from the right side, stick the right hand needle down inside that loop, and pull it up over. Up, around, down, and over. I tried to come up with a fun acronym for up, around, down, and over, but they all seemed really forced, and I decided against it. I hope that I made that clear enough for you. If I didn't, please comment in the comment section, and I'll try to explain it in a better way. Please do not be encouraged, please do not be discouraged, be encouraged, because it took me a while to figure out. I had my sister show me, and then I went home and practiced for hours, learned pretty much every way not to knit before I learned the way to knit. So keep practicing, keep working at it. I used to take Hebrew lessons from HebrewPodcast.com, and I love them, but he would always tell me that I was doing an excellent job when he couldn't actually hear what I was saying. So I thought about telling you that you were doing an excellent job, but I can't actually see you, so I thought that that would be insincere. Rather, I hope and believe that you are doing an excellent job. In fact, I hope and believe that you are the best knitter I have ever seen. So yes, next week I'm going to be talking about purling and finishing a project, and I hope that you'll watch. It still helps me when you watch, it still helps me when you comment. So thank you and good night, or a good day. I always say that.